Hey everybody, it's Magic Prepper, and I wanted to talk to you all about ways to make yourself a harder target while all this stuff is going on in the world. I know there's been a lot of questions about what you can do in order to deal with the possibility of an attack or something of that nature, especially when we see armed men with rifles using vehicles to get to locations quickly, and the military and police can't respond fast enough. So, these are all things that I've had on the channel before, but I wanted to revisit them to give you some ideas about what's available to you in regards to some of this equipment. And I will have links down below as well as discount codes for a lot of the stuff you see here because I've worked with these companies before. And I do need to mention that Midway USA is the biggest supporter of the channel, and thanks to them I have access to some of this stuff, and they actually work with a lot of these companies too. So big thanks to Midway USA. Now the first thing that I want to touch on, so we're going to go ahead and talk about some covert options, we're going to talk about some overt options, and just give you some ideas about what you can do to harden yourself to an attack in the future, depending on what that might be. Regardless of any of this equipment, when we're talking about the idea of being attacked, especially by, armed militants of sorts, okay? You need to get an individual first aid kit. More than any of this other equipment you see here on the table, an IFAK is going to provide you a lot of benefits. If you are under attack, it means there's a good likelihood that you're going to be wounded. Can you actually treat a wound with what you have on you or nearby? And everything you see here, you could either have on you or possibly in a backpack or in your vehicle. So somewhere nearby, you need to have an IFAK. And the great thing about a good high quality first aid kit is that it's not just for when you're under attack, although it's definitely necessary if that's what's happening. But you can also use this for a car accident or something else that's much more likely to happen throughout daily life. So you should have a high quality individual first aid kit before any of this other stuff. And in all honesty, we all probably should have had one of these before we even owned a gun. And I know I didn't, I'm not gonna lie about it. I wasn't as versed in this stuff at that time, but we should have this before we even own a pistol, in all honesty, because you're actually more likely to use this to help somebody in a tragic scenario than you are to deal with anything regarding a gun. So this is actually a Refuge Medical bare minimum IFAK. It's a really high quality IFAK. It has everything you need to treat a wound of a traumatic nature, right? And I do have links for them down below. So make sure you check that out. Get a high quality IFAK. Don't cheap out on some Amazon Chinese garbage because the components inside are also garbage and likely won't save your life or might fail you at the worst possible time. So this isn't something you want to gamble with and try to cheap out on, in all honesty. So don't spend $1,200 on a pistol but then 50 bucks on an IFAK and expect it to do the job you need it to do when you're more likely to use this than the pistol. All right, so have that in a backpack, a purse, in your car, in your office, nearby, wherever, but just have a good quality first aid kit. It's a requirement when we're talking about the kind of stuff that we're dealing with in the world right now, okay? Moving on from there. This is a Premier Body Armor Everyday Armor t-shirt. And I actually have a video where I did some ballistic testing and stuff with this shirt, so I'll put that up in the link up here, and that way you can check it out if you want to see how it performs. But what this allows you to do is put an armor insert in the front as well as here in the back. And it's a compression shirt, so it holds it very tight to your body. It's very form-fitting and allows you to wear armor in a concealable and discreet fashion. And that's what this is right here, is the armor insert. This is level 3A, and that means it'll stop up to a 44 Magnum. Now, that won't stop a rifle round, but it gives you armor that no one else will know you're wearing. And although it won't stop a rifle round, there are a lot of situations here in the United States where a pistol is very likely to be used against you. And even though it won't stop a rifle round, if you're under attack, and we're talking about like an organized force or something like that, this will help with things like shrapnel or debris, especially if there's any type of ordnance being used, right? So keep that in mind because, yeah, it might not stop a rifle round, but it could help you with some other things that you could encounter during that difficult situation. Premier Body Armor, another friend of the channel. I also have links and discounts for them down below. This is something I think is worth looking into because right now I'm wearing an Everyday Armor t-shirt, and it's right under this flannel you see right here. And what that allows me to have is concealable armor that you didn't know I was wearing. That means if someone shot me in the chest right now with a 9mm, I'm probably not going to die. And I think that's extremely beneficial. Now you can wear a back panel in order to have full coverage if you want, but you can also get a panel for your backpack, which if you're wearing your backpack means you now have full coverage. And that's what I have right here. So This is an Eberly stock switchblade, and this is actually a good bag. I'm gonna go ahead and move this. This is the truck gun. We'll talk about that in just a minute here. The Eberly stock switchblade, a good backpack. Eberly stock makes great stuff. It just is what it is, okay? So, in here in the main compartment, I have another Premier body armor insert, okay? And this is also level 3A, so rated for 44 Magnum. Rifle plates just don't come this light or this thin right now. Sorry, we're not quite there yet, but we're working on it, okay? Either way, I put on the backpack, I have the shirt with the front panel installed, and now I have full coverage as if I was wearing something like a plate carrier. Of course, it's not rifle rated. I have to keep saying that because we're talking about the possibility of an attack, but it's much better than no armor at all. And another way that this can be utilized inside of the bag is by using the bag itself as cover in a situation. And now you actually have a bulletproof backpack that you can hide behind or use for additional cover depending on the scenario. So yeah, it might not be as great as like a level 4 plate, but it is more cover than you had before, and it makes this backpack much more capable when it comes to protecting you, not just carrying your gear, right? So discreet armor, I think, is a great option. The first aid kit is a necessity, no matter who or what you are. Armor, I know, is limited in certain places. So in some states, like New York, I believe, you can't actually even get this stuff. So I understand that. But if you can have it, it's just nice to have as an option, especially if there's a good chance of unrest or something like that happening in your area. It allows you to wear it. No one else needs to know. But now you have that little bit of extra protection in case something was to happen. Now, in this backpack right now, I also have a rifle. So let's talk about that really quickly, okay? If I can get it out at this weird angle. Okay. Just wanted to make sure I didn't flag myself in the process. So this is a SIG MCX and 300 Blackout. Now this thing levels the playing field very quickly when it comes to dealing with being under attack by those who might also have rifles. You should be carrying some form of self-defense, myself included. And that means I have a Glock 19 on me right now. Now, this is a great handgun. And I think concealed carry, when you actually bring it full circle with covert armor, creates a very secure situation in the sense of being able to defend yourself and respond to a dangerous situation. I can be more protected from incoming pistol rounds, and I have a pistol in order to fight back with. That's huge. That changes the game quite a bit compared to just walking around in street clothes, right? But if someone has a rifle, this armor won't help you, unfortunately, and neither will this pistol really. And the reason behind that is because pistols are just not very good at doing their job. Now hold on, let me reholster. Try to make sure we do that safely. It's 2023, appendix carry is totally fine. Don't freak out about it. And honestly, no one's that concerned about the stuff you have down there, trust me. So this allows you to respond to someone else with a rifle much better. Because if you bring a pistol to a rifle fight, you're probably going to lose. Now, can you carry a gun like this in a backpack where you live? That depends on where you live. Do you have a gun that can fit in a backpack that could still compete with a rifle if you needed it to? That also depends on what you have. Is this a reasonable thing to possibly deploy depending on the situation? Maybe. And that's a big part of the conversation there. If you pull out a rifle, who else knows you're the good guy? Maybe no one. But if you need a rifle and you have it, you're still going to use it. So you have to weigh out the risk versus reward there. And in some cases, you might end up looking like the bad guy to whoever responds, and that could be very problematic. In other cases, you might need a rifle or else you're going to die. So these are choices you have to make, and then you have to game plan exactly how you would react to certain situations and where this would come into play regarding those situations. I can't do that part for you, but if you can carry a rifle in a backpack that's concealed while wearing covert armor and having complete first aid capabilities with you, which also, by the way, requires training, which you can get through Refuge Medical, and I've gone to their training and it's very good. So listen, this gets you a lot of capability that no one else even knows you have. I think that's pretty substantial. This makes you a very hard target. This might not be applicable to you, depending on the situation. It also might not be a good option depending on the situation. Even if people have rifles and they're attacking you, this might not go well for you depending on what's going on and who's responding to it. So that has to be a very well thought out situation. But the armor, if you can own it, obviously, if you're in New York, I don't think you can, but Anywhere else, I mean, it's just a great option. Why not? And then having a little bit of armor and a concealed carry pistol and the ability to treat somebody with wounds or traumatic injuries, that makes you a much more formidable opponent or a hardened target in anyone else's eyes, right? So let's move over to the overt stuff. Now, earlier I said that this was the truck gun, right? Well, that's because it is in many ways. So why is this the truck gun? Well, this is a really cheap AR-15. This is an AR Stoner build that has an arrow precision lower. And I think this thing, even with the carry handle and everything included, was like 550 bucks. And that's including the magazine too. So 550 bucks. Does this rifle run? Yeah. Does it have what I would want in the sense of capabilities and longevity? Not really. But is it worthy of having in my truck? Yes. Why is that? Well, it gets me a rifle. It's capable in the sense that it's got sights and it can be turned on, let's just say. But the other thing that it does is allow me to weigh out that risk versus reward of leaving something relatively expensive and admittedly dangerous in a vehicle. Most people don't like leaving rifles in their vehicle because it could get stolen. And that's a reasonable concern. First off, it could cost a lot of money. Second off, whoever got that rifle might be a dangerous person. So there's a lot of things you have to think about when it comes to that. But if you get something that's relatively cheap and you have insurance and everything you're doing is legal, aka you're transporting the firearm in a legal way depending on where you are, aka some states require it to be in a locked container, other states require it to be separated from the ammunition. There's a lot of things that go into that, right? But in general, if you're following the law and you're allowed to have a rifle in your vehicle and your vehicle gets broken into and it gets stolen, your insurance is probably going to cover it. Now that's based on your policy, of course, and if you have comprehensive insurance, that's usually what would cover something like this, and of course your deductible has to be lower than the cost of this for it to even matter. Regardless of all that, you also have the risk versus reward equation that you have to go through in the sense of, is the risk of this being stolen worse than the risk of not having a rifle if I actually need a rifle? That's another consideration you need to make. And I think by going with a very budget-friendly rifle that you know actually works, like you've tested it and it runs and you're not going to have it choke on you after the first round, then I think you can start getting closer to it being okay to have a truck gun like this without too much concern about it being taken from you. Someone steals your rifle, they committed a crime. There's not much we can do about crime. But if you need a rifle and you don't have it because you were worried about the possibility of crime, well, in that moment, you're going to wish you had a rifle and you don't. So these are all things you need to consider, but this is something you could approach in the sense of how you can make yourself a more hardened target and how you could secure yourself better during an attack or something of that nature. So I think a truck gun is a great option at this point in time, or obviously in your car, your SUV, or whatever you got. And then the bag gun is more niche and definitely something not everybody's going to try to have to deal with, but it's an option. But once you have one of these, you have a way better chance of dealing with somebody else who has one of these versus trying to pull out your handgun against someone with a rifle. If you want an anecdotal story about that, just look up what happened in Fargo, North Dakota here recently, where multiple officers encountered an active shooter who had a rifle and they responded with their handguns. And unfortunately, 3, I believe, of those officers perished, and it took 21 rounds of 9mm to put that perpetrator down. 21 rounds, because handguns just kind of suck. It's just the truth. The only reason we even use handguns is because you can carry them on you and they're concealable. It's not because they're really good at their job generally, okay? So if you need a rifle, you need a rifle. And if other people are coming at you with rifles, you definitely need a rifle. So I would say a truck gun or a car gun or whatever you got is a good consideration at this point in time. Now, the other overt aspect is a plate carrier. Now, this is a Premier Body Armor Core plate carrier, and it's got their level 4 Stratus plates in it. You want level 4 plates. Why? It stops rifle rounds, up to 30-06 armor penetrating rounds, at least up to one of them. Now, you can get away with level 3, sure, but I will tell you right now that there's a good chance M193 out of my 20-inch AR is going to go right through it. So depending on the threat, you know, level 3 could stop the threat, but there's definitely times where it won't. Level 4 will pretty much stop any rifle threat that's going to be coming your way, other than something that's just unreasonable and you're going to get schwacked no matter what, aka like a 50 cal, right? So level 4 is a good way to go. These plates are actually polyurethane ceramic hybrid, which means they can be lightweight and form-fitting while also still having that level 4 status. And then I also, like I said, have links to this stuff down below that can help you out with the cost, because none of this stuff is inexpensive. Everything you see here mostly is made in the USA. And what that means is, like, regarding the armor and the IFAC and everything else, anything made in the USA that's of high quality is going to cost something. But this is stuff we're talking about protecting your life with, not just stuff that you're going to play around with, right? So invest in what makes the most sense, okay? This particular carrier has a lot of benefits. One, if you're dealing with the fact that people are coming at you with a rifle and you need to grab a rifle, well, throwing on some mobile cover is probably not the worst idea. And level 4 allows you to do that, because if you take a rifle around while wearing these plates, you're probably going to survive it. The other thing to consider is that the plate carrier itself is its own system. It has everything on it that you might need to keep your weapon up and running, as well as to give yourself a little bit more capability. So, for example, on here I've got tourniquet, then we've got a 3 magazine shingle right here on the front, so I have 3 extra magazines for the AR in order to keep things up and running. You go over to the side here, we've got a shoulder mic for your comms, I've got a knife, I've got a radio, and I've got another IFAC right here. Now this is a Refuge Medical SOB kit. That's their small of the back kit, which is usually meant to be on a belt. But I found that to be, well, actually, I just slicked my whole belt up in general. My belt just had too much stuff on it. I was over it. It was too heavy. My pants were falling down, not doing it. So I had to slick the belt up, make it a little bit less heavy. So I moved the SOB kit to the side of my plate carrier, and actually it's like perfect for that. So if you're looking for a good IFAC for your plate carrier, check out that SOB kit from Refuge Medical. But this gives you a lot of capability, and all you have to do is grab it or put it on. Even if you don't have a chance to put it on, you can just grab it, and now you have extra mags, you have first aid, and some communications capabilities if you need it. The other thing that's cool about this particular carrier is that, yeah, it weighs more, but the cummerbund is actually lined with level 3A armor as well. So this will stop pistol rounds as well as shrapnel or fragmentation of who knows what else, right? Like debris and stuff like that. So honestly, a very good plate carrier. I find it to be very comfortable as well. Either way, if you need to go overt, then things have gotten really bad. And you might have some risks in the sense of looking like the guy who went overt, right? There's this guy running around with an AR and a plate carrier on in the middle of this attack, and we don't know if he's a good guy or a bad guy, right? That's something you're always going to have to be concerned about. But you know what? If you get to the point where you need this and you need this, that's not your biggest concern. Your biggest concern at that moment is surviving whatever it is you're dealing with and trying to get the heck out of there so that you can live to fight another day, right? So all these things have compromises. Everything has risks versus rewards. But these particular items that we just discussed, especially like the covert armor, because the fact that I have it on right now and I can just have some additional protection, especially for those of you who can't conceal carry, you aren't able to carry a handgun where you live, why not get some concealable armor so that way you at least have some level of protection if somebody tries to hurt you, right? Either way, this makes you a harder target. This makes you more secure and more safe in your situation no matter what the scenario, especially regarding the IFAC. I really want to drive that home. This is more important than all of the other stuff because you might use it anywhere, on the job site, at a car accident, anywhere you might use this. You can save your own life with it. You can save somebody else's life with it. I really think we need to make sure we have more high quality individual first aid kits out there in the community. So make sure you have one of those before anything else that we just discussed. And then, listen, I know in the last video I talked about us being in like a wartime scenario now. It's no longer peacetime, right? That's why we're discussing these things here. I wanted to give you a reminder, a refresher about what's available and what options you might have and what could make sense depending on your situation, right? This stuff can sit in your car if you legally can, right? This stuff could be at your workplace depending on where you work. I mean, of course, you can't bring this to everywhere you work, but some people could. Have it nearby. You can at least access it if need be. But if you don't have it with you, might as well not have it at all, right? In many ways, that's true and becoming more true as things get more dangerous. But in that video, I also wanted to mention that everyone was very focused on the fact that there's these two groups that we're specifically focused on right now. And I didn't drive this home in the video as I should have, but all these groups are interacting with all the other major players around the world right now. They're all part of this worldwide war that we're all currently experiencing, but just haven't admitted is happening yet. The major players are all involved, and they all are on one side or the other, which means regardless of how you feel, if you're on one side or the other side considers you an enemy. And they're funding and they are training and they are providing everything required for their side to win versus the other side, regardless of which way you look at it. That's why all this stuff matters right now. Not just because of one particular focus. It's worldwide. And the more you realize that, the more you realize that this stuff might not be as obscure as it used to be. So, check the links down below. Everything that we talked about here can be applied in one form or fashion, but if not, think about what you could at least learn from the idea that other people might have this stuff. Consider that. And if you need something from me, magicprepper.com is always a good resource. If you want to support the channel directly, Subscribestar, it's $5 a month. We have exclusive content over there. I also do a preparedness giveaway every month. Well, it's not a giveaway, it's an incentive, okay? But every month I have an incentive for somebody in order to make sure it's worth their while to be part of the community there. And Midway USA is actually helping me out with that too. So last month I actually gave out a range bag from Midway USA to one of my Subscribestar members. So check that out if you'd like. And if you have any questions for me about any of this stuff, just leave a comment below. But these are just some ideas and some things that I found to be important that are available, and I know a lot of people might not be aware of all this stuff, so I just wanted to mention it. And besides that, it's going to be it for Magic Prepper.